This is a very familiar situation, right? Like we are in a time pressure in a very serious tournament game, and the annoying sound of the clock is telling us that we should finally make our move. But is it possible to avoid that? Is it possible to improve in that? These are very relevant questions. My name is Lukas. I'm a 7-dan player from Czech Republic, and today I'm here to give you some advices how to get better or how to better deal with time pressure. First of all, it's important to realize that avoiding time pressure is definitely possible. It's possible through playing quicker at the beginning of the game. Because we shouldn't forget one thing. The beginning of the game doesn't necessarily decide the game. It can of course give us like small advantage if we are really good in fuseki and openings in general, but I don't really believe that actually is deciding the game. So how to spare time? How to play quicker? Well, it's of course possible to avoid complications. It's of course possible to think less about details in the opening, because after all, the game will be anyway decided in the middle game or eventually in the end game, and it's definitely good to spare some time. Of course, another possibility is to play a lot of lightning games and be better in like 30 or 20 or even 10 seconds intervals playing. But on the other hand, I think nobody in the world is able to play at the best level in a time pressure. Very often, I'm actually getting asked by my students, if I think in the beginning, I will get advantage in the beginning and that will help me to win the game. I will not get into a good position in the middle game, so how can I win the game from that? Well, it's partly true, of course, but the advantage you will get in the opening is never so big that it will finally decide the game. The decisive moments come in the middle game, end game, and in general in the second half of the game. So I would like to show you a few examples how to avoid thinking so much in the opening and how to maybe simplify some of the situations by playing simpler moves and save our time for later important moments. So let's put a few stones on the board because these will be useful for our example situations. Let's start with this classic Sun invasion, which is kind of an evergreen of nowadays. And white playing this schema, which is already a move which is rather advanced, and I believe that it's actually the start of a lot of complicated variations. Well, of course, black can just simply answer that, right? This way. And white can also play this way and just create a thickness. Black will take the corner and the game just continues in a very simple way. But if we go back like this, black has also this move, right? Which is starting a very complicated variation, which is nowadays famous for the name called flying knife. And if white plays here, black replies this way, white will go up, black will play here, white will block, black can cut. And from now on, there are endless variations, maybe even hundreds, which were developed by AI in recent years. The question is, can anybody study them all? Well, maybe world-class players do, but most of us are not world-class players. And the risk of dying here without proper studies or without spending enough time on these situations, the chance is rather high, I think. So how to avoid this? There is, of course, a possibility for black to just simplify and go back this way, right? Because if we force white to connect, and black, for example, just fixes the corner like this, I don't really think black got worse result. It's just a simpler variation. And like this, I believe we managed to solve this corner in 10 seconds. If we play a flying knife variation, I believe we can easily spend there 10 minutes or more while choosing which variation to play, or did the opponent started something new and how to punish, or if we are not punishing ourselves. So all of this is absolutely possible. If we go back again, white also has simplifying moves, like for example, just extending this way, black extends as well, white extends, and black comes back this way, which is of course a possibility as well. And we have seen this Joseki before in one of the examples. This is how to avoid flying knife variation. Let's say the game continues this way, and we just play this simple corner, and then white approached here. And if after that, black decides to approach here, white decides to pincert this way. And here, with this schema, we are entering another evergreen situation of nowadays Go. White pushes, black blocks, white cuts. This Joseki is so-called either push and cut, or we can also call it windmill this way. Well, there are obviously very cheerful names and some very cheerful variations in this corner. But the question is, did we study them enough? Do we believe that the opponent doesn't know anything that might cause us troubles? Well, it can always happen since there are many endless variations in this corner. So how to avoid this? Of course, on the first place, you can avoid playing this schema if you are black, which is, for example, what I'm doing relatively often if I know I'm playing an opponent that knows these variations better than me. So how to do that? Well, besides Tenuki, black has also various ways how to strengthen the approaching stone in the corner. So, for example, black can play almost any kind of jump in this direction, like this, or just like this. Well, if black just wants to play some kind of simple fight, I believe even this kind of variation is probably not bad. Or black can just decide to strengthen the stone like this, and white will jump, and now black can either Tenuki or try some kind of attachment in the corner, or black can directly attach here in the corner, which is a situation that used to happen a long time ago before AI very frequently. And no matter if white played like this and black fixed the situation this way, or if white decided to play counter-attack this way and black plays counter-attack from the other side, white takes the corner and from the outside. In all these situations or all of these variations, something in common. They are simple. We haven't spent so much time on there. And once again, I would like to say we basically solved this corner in 10 seconds. We don't need to think about some super long variations or how to fight some kind of variations that we are not sure about, and it will just cost us time. Let's just proceed the game from this position like this, that black will just play in a simple way like this way, black fixes the group, and the game continues. And I don't think that any of the sides at the moment lost more than 1 point on the board. And even if so, I don't really believe that it really matters in our games. It matters probably for world-class monsters like Shinjin Seo or Kerzier or Ichiriki Ryo or other famous players, but it definitely doesn't matter for anyone else, and especially not for amateur players, I think. How to continue from here? Well, I can, for example, play this way, right? And this is a move which can actually result into another very difficult variation and very difficult Joseki, which used to be popular in Shusaku era, and it's called Taisha. I'm sure that you've heard this name about before. And I can show some variation here. It can happen, for example, like this, and I still have showed something simpler. There are definitely more difficult ways how to play this variation, and I would also say there are probably 100 possibilities how to play in this situation. So how to avoid that? Of course, white had a possibility at the beginning to play this schema, right? And if white plays this schema, we are probably entering again something relatively simple, which is happening almost all the time. And if white plays here, black can start just crawling this way on a third line, and black didn't make a mistake, right? Okay, black chose probably something simpler, but I don't really think black made a mistake. Black just took the points, white is taking the influence on the outside, and I don't really think that there is any problem here. This is absolutely balanced variation. And again, we managed to solve this corner in 10 seconds. Another possibility, of course, white can play, for example, here, right? And black will just attach under. After this attachment, we are expecting that white will play Hane, black will go back, white will connect, black will extend, and white will extend in this way. Of course, there are many details we can think about, like, for example, should we connect directly, or should we connect with the hanging connection? Or should we play Keima? Or should we just extend one space this way? Or should we extend on a third line? Or should we extend on a fourth line? All of these are definitely relevant questions, that they are not affecting the outcome of the game. All of these moves should be prepared, or we just simply shouldn't care. We just should make sure that we know what we are doing. However, even here, white has the possibility how to complicate things a bit and go down this way and hane. And this is start of the variation which is called Avalanche. This is a Joseki that used to be very popular in the previous century. And there are, of course, many ways how to enter complicated stuff. Like, for example, starting from here, then white cuts, black extends, white extends to a corner. And there are so many possibilities at this moment. And it can turn into absolute madness. And there are probably at least 50 variations from this moment how is possible to proceed. Of course, I absolutely respect that there are many players that like this Joseki. They have studied it. But especially players who didn't study this Joseki and they don't want to be surprised in the beginning and especially want to save some time for later, there are many ways how to avoid complications. For example, black can just descend on a second line, which is the most common move nowadays. You are not spending any time here, white will extend here, and now black has possibilities like turn this way and play Keima, or just push few times and then leave the situation and Tenuki somewhere else. And black is absolutely safe in the corner and white has a very nice influence. Again, none of the sides is complaining, I think. Black can, for example, even just connect here, which is absolutely not a bad move. White can extend, black can jump, white can fix the shape like this. Or if black is on the side that wants to play the large avalanche, white has also a possibility how to simplify this. For example, by just playing Atari and then playing hanging connection this way, which this is a very popular shape and it used to be popular before AI. It's still popular nowadays and it's also one of the possibilities how we can avoid complications in this corner. I guess the game can still continue in a very simple fashion from this moment, like black can play Kosumi here, white can extend, then black will play a simple move like this one, and white can just extend in this direction. And I believe that this kind of fuseki can be easily completed in a minute, or if both of the players are relatively calm, maybe in a few minutes, but it will definitely not take 10 minutes or more or something like that, and I don't think that any unnecessary time has been wasted here from neither of the sides. So I have showed you a couple of examples how we can save time, some of the typical situations in modern Go, how to avoid difficult variations and how to simplify the game at the beginning. And I would like to end this video with a story that happened relatively recently. I guess many of you know that I'm a player that is trying to become pro, and I have participated in many European professional qualifications. So this story comes from the last one. You know, there were two players. I will not name them, but both are 6th dan level in Europe. They were probably not the main contenders to become EGF Pro, but they definitely had their chances. Both of them had very similar European rating before the tournament. However, their later result was very different from each other. They also have something in common, or at least they are famous for that. They are very calm at the beginning and they have troubles with time pressure later on in the game. One of the players decided to adjust himself and learn from this mistake, wasting time in the opening, and decided to just play a very simple fuseki. I would even say blitz it, because after the fuseki he usually had more time on the clock than he started with, because we played with the Fisher time, and eventually also got into time pressure, but probably not at the move 100, but somewhere in the end game. And usually end game we are able to complete in 20 or 30 seconds per move. But in the middle game, when there is something really important to solve, the time can be very useful for us. So, and eventually this player scored 8 wins out of 11 rounds, which is a very impressive result. On the other hand, there was another player who actually is also very famous for thinking a lot in the opening, but he decided to stay with playing the same way. And if we would look into some kind of statistics, if there have been made, I believe the average number of moves where he got into time pressure was around move number 60 or 70. I still remember our game when we played very calm in the opening, but at move 70, the first fight started. My opponent had only 30 seconds on the clock. I still had 20 minutes. And obviously I got a clear advantage in that fight only because I got a lot of time on the clock at that moment. Eventually, this player scored only 2 wins in the European Pro Qualification. I don't really believe there is a significant level of playing between these two players. They are probably very close to each other. However, who manages the time better wins way more games. And I believe this is a very good example that can show you that sparing time in the opening is very useful, and playing unnecessarily complicated stuff or playing something we don't know is not the way how to win games. Thank you for watching this video.
By the way, you can also watch these lessons on our platform, gomagic.org. Except there, you'll watch them with interactive quizzes right within the lessons and practical exercises right after them. And if you enjoy watching these Go videos and you don't want to miss others like this one, go smash that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this is Go Magic.